All right, so I just got back from watching Wicked for Good, the sequel to last year's Wicked, or Wicked Part 1, whatever you want to call it, which is an adaptation of the Broadway musical Wicked, which is an adaptation of the book Wicked, which is a alternate adaptation of the movie The Wizard of Oz, which is an adaptation of the Wizard of Oz series. So there's a long history of adaptations here. And I have seen The Wizard of Oz and I watched last year's Wicked, and that's it. I haven't seen the play, I haven't read the books, either book. So that's as far as my connection to all this goes. But I am a big fan of the Wizard of Oz movie. Not the biggest fan, but a fan. I do like that movie a lot. And I remember liking Wicked. I don't remember saying here that I loved it, but I did like the music, I did like the production design, and I did like the performances, especially by Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba and Ariana Grande as Glinda. They're very good, especially Ariana Grande. She impressed me a lot. I was not expecting to like her as much as I did, but she's very good in that first movie, and she's good here too. So the good news is that some of this does carry over to part 2, which, as someone who hasn't seen the play, I had no idea what to expect. I only had heard that it incorporates more elements from The Wizard of Oz into part 2, and that it does get kind of wild and crazy. So I was kind of looking forward to see what was in store. And unfortunately, what was in store was not as good as part 1, which I didn't even love. I said it was good, but I don't remember saying I loved it. But yeah, it's definitely better than part 2, which apparently will not shock fans of the Broadway show, because part 2 and even the Broadway show is just not as good, apparently, which I wasn't aware of until after I saw the movie. But the biggest issue is that character arcs and character development, character motivation, even stuff like character choices is kind of all over the place in Wicked for Good. Characters make choices that don't make a lot of sense in this movie, where I don't really know how we get from point A to point B. Not that the plot in and of itself is confusing, but the characters seem kind of distracted by so many different things going on, and not a lot of it has to do with the main plot that was set up in part 1. It almost feels like the main plot of part 1 is dropped like halfway through this movie, and it becomes about something else entirely halfway through. Where I don't want to spoil anything, but at one point, Elphaba goes, "Well, if they want a wicked witch, I'll give them a wicked witch." And I was like, wow, we're making a jump from A to B here. I needed a little bit more character development so I can be convinced that she would go from this person to this person in such a short amount of time. So I didn't really buy that, and unfortunately, almost every character is like that, where it has some moment where they react oddly, or over dramatically, or just, in a way that doesn't make a lot of sense to their situation. Which made the whole movie honestly kind of boring, because I'm waiting for it to get interesting. I'm waiting to be compelled, and it never happened because I couldn't really attach myself to any of the characters like I could with the first movie, because they're all over the place in this part. Another thing that's worse is the music, surprisingly. And this I thought was a surefire, like, hey, the music in the first part was good, the music in the second part is going to be good as well. And with one exception, the song that this movie is named after, For Good, that's a good song, and it deserves all the acclaim, I guess, that song has. I'm assuming that song has acclaim. I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming it does. For Good is a really good song. And Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande really pulled off not obviously the musical aspect of it, but also the emotional aspect of that song. But all the other songs are just so bland and boring, and they don't even look that interesting. And it's weird that the director of this movie, who directed the first movie very well, John M. Chu, he's directed Step Up movies, which are all about dancing, and he directed In the Heights, which I think is very underrated. and has great musical numbers that are lively and vibrant and very interesting to watch. And the first Wicked has some great stuff like Dancing Through Life and Defying Gravity, and it's got cool motions and stuff. This movie, the music doesn't really pop on the screen musically or visually. For Good is a calm duet, so I kind of expected that to be a little slower and more contemplative. But there's a lot of songs in here that I'm just like, there should be something more interesting happening on the screen. But there's not a lot going on here. So that's the bad. The good from the first movie that does carry over onto this one is the production design and the performances by Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, especially Ariana Grande again. She doesn't have as much to do in this movie in terms with comedy, but she does pull off all the dramatic stuff very well. And when she does get to have comedy, she shines just as much as she did in the last movie as well. So yeah, that's all still good. The issue is that the other stuff are kind of big issues. Character development and the quality of the music is very important in a musical. And unfortunately, it's just not very good here. Another thing that I was looking forward to that is not done very well in this part is the implementation of stuff from the Wizard of Oz movie into here. I was really looking forward to see how clever they could be with kind of folding these movies into one complete package. I thought we could have had a cool trilogy of movies here with the original Wizard of Oz movie and Wicked Part 1 and Wicked for Good. You could be like a Wizard of Oz trilogy sort of thing, but they don't really do anything clever with the crossover of Wizard of Oz stuff. It's not, everything they do is bare minimum stuff and not very engaging, unfortunately. It was like the least interesting thing they could have done, unfortunately. So that didn't buy me any points either. So if you are a fan of the Broadway show, apparently none of this is news to you. You already know this. So your expectations are probably already, lowered a little bit for part 2 because you know. But if you were like me and you didn't know, I'd say it's still worth checking out in the theater if you just want to see how the whole story wraps up. But go in with tempered expectations. Don't expect something as good as the first one. It's not going to be that. But I do think you will enjoy it more if you do see it in the theater, especially with a crowded theater full of Wicked fans, fans of the Broadway play. I had the person to my right and the person to my left crying during the For Good song. So they were clearly having a ball. So, just go in with tempered expectations and you'll probably will have a decent time at the theaters. So those are my thoughts on Wicked for Good.